Last year, I managed to keep a bullet journal going for the majority of the year. I let it go around September, I think, when my health got not too bad. And for every month, I created a cover, which I was rather happy with. Sometimes they were minimal, like February. Other times they were slightly more exotic, like March. It depended on how much time I had, how much energy I had, how many spoons I had. But in September, I let it go because I didn't have the energy to set up a new spread. So this year, for 2020 and for December 2019, I decided to change my spread a little, make a new sort of setup. As you can see going by right now, I stopped doing covers. So I've decided to make a new cover for December. I've also been wanting to do 30 days of, is it 30 days? 31 days? 4 months. 4 months of streaming in December. So I decided I wanted to do that, and being able to track that in my bullet journal would be nice. I tend to keep everything that's sort of important to me in my bullet journal. I've been keeping my pill in there, my vitamin D in there, and yeah, I've also earlier this year, I was using the future pages as a way of leaving myself some little messages. I'd printed out some little comic, you're doing your best sort of things from Tumblr and printed them out and put them in. I also got a calendar online from Shining Mom blog, I think, which I really like. I may end up drawing my own next year or creating my own. But for this video, I thought while I do my art for the cover of December, I thought we would talk about my chronic fatigue syndrome, my ME, and my sleep pattern. I first got sick again back when I was 14. I'm 26 now, and it was hard. I know that sounds ridiculous because of course it was hard. I got sick, but it was. And there's a lot of reasons why it was hard that I'm not going to get into in this particular video, but it's worth noting that a lot of them had to do with sleep, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So when I first got sick, I found it very difficult to be awake for, I was going to say a long period of time, but any period of time really. I would sleep for 19 hours a day, sometimes longer, and it made it hard to eat, it made it hard to work, it made it hard to do anything. I was in high school at the time. I was homeschooled until I was 14 or so, and then I decided I wanted to go to school, but unfortunately I got sick again, and that made it impossible to go to school. When I was a little bit older, I was in college. I was trying to attend, over here we have BTEC colleges, where you have a vocational, it's not a degree, but it's like a vocational thing, and those particular colleges tend to be about 2-3 days a week, sometimes like half days. I was doing 3 days a week. On a Monday I had classes all day. On a Thursday I had classes for half a day. On a Friday I had one class. I had to take a bus to school, and that was almost impossible for me as well, because it was so difficult to get up early, walk up there, get on the bus, get off the bus once we arrived, then be stuck at school, and then I had to come all the way home, and by which point I was exhausted. The bus would get there at like 8 in the morning, and we'd get home about 6 p.m. or something. Like, it was a long day for someone who was very unwell. I didn't drive, I was 17 at the time. Sorry, this would have been 16 at the time. And it was hard for me. And the biggest problem was how much sleep I needed, and I needed a lot of sleep. As I've learned more coping mechanisms, it's been getting a little bit easier, but I was still stuck sleeping sort of 12 hours. After 2010, I think, I've been on a relatively American sleep pattern where I wake up sort of early to mid-afternoon, and then I go back to bed at sort of 6 a.m. That works pretty nicely for me because I get to avoid my parents and do some work between the hours of about midnight and 4 a.m, which may not sound like a lot of time, but it's a good amount of time to do sort of writing and things like that. But the number one thing that's really been difficult for me is I struggle with being awake. You would think that my issue would be not getting enough sleep, but it's actually more that I get tired faster. And once I figured that out, I decided that the correct course of action would be to learn to compensate for that rather than trying to sleep less specifically, because I was trying to sort of get up at 2 p.m. and go to bed at 6 a.m, but I would just end up losing my sleep pattern somewhere along the line, because I would go back to bed at 7 p.m. or at 11 p.m. because I was just so tired. After a while, this is recently, probably the last year or year and a half, I worked out that I actually don't need to sleep 12 hours or more. Sometimes I do, but my actual issue tends to be more that I can't be awake for more than 8 hours or so, excepting a few moments where for some reason I'll be awake for 24 hours, which is just part of the insomnia part of the ME. Yay, my favourite. So once I figured out that it was being awake that I had problems with, I started thinking over the best way to compensate for that. And that's when I remembered reading about people who don't sleep 8 hours, or in one particular session. I remembered hearing about some guy who used to sleep like in naps, so he'd take a 20-minute power nap at 7 a.m. and 20-minute power nap at 11 a.m. and 20-minute power nap at 2 p.m. and things like that, and that would work for him. He'd stay awake for the majority of the day, but he would end up getting enough sleep from his power naps, and it would work better for him. There's also people who, if they find the right moment to sleep, they don't need to sleep as much. So if they sleep from 10 p.m. onwards, they need 8 to 12 hours, but if they sleep from, I don't know, 5 a.m. onwards, they don't need that much sleep, and in fact they manage to sleep only 5 hours or so. So once I started thinking about that and I looked into what is called polyphasic sleep, I proceeded to think about my own sleep needs and what that requires for me. And for me, that means not being awake for more than about 8 hours and then getting about 4 to 5 hours sleep. I worked out a couple of years ago that I always feel far more refreshed after 6 hours sleep but the problem was there that I would then end up asleep 8 hours later again because I couldn't stay awake. So once I mused my way through that, I realized that my best strategy was to sleep in 2 shifts. So I picked up a polyphasic sleep pattern where I would go to bed about 6 a.m. and I would get up about noon. I would then work for the afternoon or whatever. Sometimes it wouldn't be work for the afternoon, sometimes it would be sit up and stare off into space like a zombie, because just getting the right amount of sleep does not fix the rest of my ME problems, but you know, what can you do? So I would get up about noon. I would then be awake until about 6 p.m. when I would look at the clock and it'd be like, okay, time to go back to bed. I would then get into bed and I would sleep usually from about 7 or 8 to about midnight. And then I would get up, I would come downstairs, I would be able to do my work as previously stated for writing or whatever else I was working on outside of the overbearing nature of my parents' presence, and I would then go back to bed at 6 a.m. thereabouts. This also worked pretty well for being able to spend time with my friend Wanda, who was usually around between midnight and 6 a.m. because for her that would be about 6 p.m. to midnight because she is in America. I have another friend in America who I would see more of then. I have a friend who worked a lot of night shifts, so I'd see them too. So this worked pretty well for me. The upsides of this is that I have a lot more energy. I feel much better when I manage to keep this duo of 4 hours sleep pattern functional. The downsides would be that I do feel like I spend more time in bed than I would like, because I go to bed at 6 and sleep sort of 8 till 12, whereas if I slept 8 hours only, it would be like sleeping from, I don't know, 10 until 6 or something like that, or even going to bed 2 hours before that. I'd only be in bed for 10 hours. Something I need to work on is being able to fall asleep more easily, but insomnia, sleep reversal, and generally having problems with sleep is unfortunately a big part of ME and chronic fatigue syndrome in general. So what I'm doing at the moment on my bullet journal on this page is I am creating a weekly spread, and down the sides I have created a little schedule. So I have 11 through 6 on one side, and I have 1 through 8 on the other side, midnight through 8 on the other side. So it's probably 11 through 8 or something on the one side. And then I'm going to color code with what work I do as the week progresses. I can't take the credit for this particular spread idea. I got it from a video I will link down in the description, although I did customize it to my own needs and expectations. I'm going to list the projects that I worked on each week. But discovering polyphasic sleep has absolutely revolutionized my health. It's not perfect, I don't pretend that it is. I'm still not awake in the mornings, which makes sad a little harder. I find winters very difficult because I'm tired a lot more. There's a lot less sunshine, there's a lot less sort of light in general, and I already don't get a lot of light in my life, but I have found that sleeping in 2 patterns does help my ME. It helps my attention, it helps me get a lot of work done. It means I can stream in the afternoons when I won't be waking people. Unfortunately, my room is on a shared wall with the neighbour, so I have to be careful about waking him up, even if they're not particularly careful with me. And I have to be careful about waking my parents up as well. So if you're having problems with sleep, where you are sleeping too much but you don't feel that you need to sleep quite as much as you are, I can highly recommend trying polyphasic sleep in some way. I do lose my sleep pattern still, quite regularly in fact. I don't think it's ever going to be perfect. When I get hit by the stress bomb, I do tend to sleep too long or not enough. When I get hit by depression, I tend to sleep too long or not enough. If I exert myself, I get hit by the post-exertion malaise. But as for this spread, I did 2 weeks. I was going to do the full 4 weeks of December, but unfortunately I didn't have the energy to do 2 more. This took me about 3 hours to do the whole lot. However, I will create, if I like the 2 weeks I've already done, I'm going to create a template and print it in future. And hopefully that will be good. It will also remind me that this is the sleep pattern that is good for me, that I want to keep. And I will be able to track my work and my streaming. And if I do, I will probably post the template so other people can print it. So yes, that's one of my coping mechanisms. It really does help my health out a lot. I find that I struggle a lot less with how much I sleep and how much I am awake and my health in general when I do polyphasic sleep, and I'm hoping to keep polyphasic sleep for as long as I can. Thank you for listening to my talk about my health. On this channel I intend to do a lot of soft-spoken conversations about my health and my coping mechanisms, and do more fun with me. So I hope you'll hit subscribe and like, and yeah, thanks for hanging out with me. Bye!